โมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะพุทธังธัมมังสังฆังนัมมัสสามิ Blessings, good evening from a pleasantly warm Wat Buddha Bodhivana near Melbourne. As you know, Melbourne can be unpredictable in the weather, so sometimes it's very cold and wet, sometimes it's warm and dry, and at the moment it's quite warm and pleasant. And we have a beautiful full moon above us and actually a halo around the moon. If you're in this part of the world, you might be able to see it from your home. And the monks tend to attribute the halo not only to the presence of moisture in the atmosphere, but also the maybe the blessings of the devas, this being New Year, Songkran, Thai New Year, and also the first day of the new cycle, or the full moon, the waning moon. The moon is very beautiful at the moment. So in terms of Buddhists, particularly Southeast Asian Buddhists, this is always, I think, generally a happy time. People come together in monasteries and temples, visit home, visit family, mainly to show in one way or another appreciation, kindness, gratitude to those who we have a connection to, such as parents and grandparents, teachers, the Buddha. New Year, whether it's January 1st or April 13th, it's a time to remember those people who have helped us. In Buddhism we call this wisdom. There's many kinds of wisdom we talk about in life, and often wisdom is sort of seen in a narrow sense, developing insight into impermanence or the selfless nature of phenomena. Body and mind are not self, and indeed they're probably the highest kinds of wisdom that we develop through meditation to help us go beyond craving and attachment. But there's many kinds of wisdom in life, and recognizing that we don't live alone, and that there are people who have helped us and are helping us every day in our life. The Buddha would call that wisdom as well. The recognition that particularly parents, but also other relatives, close friends, and teachers in particular, have and are helping us. It comes from a mind that is bright and open, receptive to wisdom, what we call right view, samma ditthi. Often these days our culture is very focused on the kind of the power of the individual, the rights of the individual, and you might even call it the cult of the individual. And we don't want anyone telling us what to do. We often associate freedom with freedom of choice, freedom of the right to go where you want, say what you want, do what you want. Many people in the world look up to that. And on some levels that may be correct and good, but the danger is, of course, that we ignore or forget the fact that we do have many people who have helped us and are helping us every day in our lives. And we live together in a society, whether you live in a single house on a mountain or something, or you live in a village or a town or a massive city, there's people you depend on for your food and your well-being in many different ways. And also, in particular, there's other people we depend on for the dharma. If we didn't have the Buddha, we wouldn't be here now watching this Zoom session. I wouldn't be a monk. We wouldn't have monasteries and places of practice if we didn't have the Buddha. Or Sangha, who have followed the Buddha, the enlightened Sangha, who have been practicing what the Buddha taught since the time of the Buddha, right down until today. We wouldn't be where we are now. You probably would agree that we'd be worse off. So New Year, it can be a useful convention. Of course, every day is a new year, because time is constantly marching on. And yesterday was a new year, today is a new year, tomorrow is a new year. But still we use the convention as humans. We say, according to the calendar, this is one of the New Years in the calendar that human beings have set up, particularly linked to the arrival of the rains, the monsoon season in Southeast Asia. So the new growing season is the new year. So it's has very practical roots. But it can be a useful time just to pause and reflect on your life, what you've done, where you've been, what's happened in the last year, what you aspire to, what you want for the next year. When you're young, you like to hear people tell you that, that in Thailand and many Asian countries, they have these words for when you're young, you're called brother or sister or some equivalent term. And people like that because it makes them feel young. So say in Thai they call you Pi or Nong. Even monks, they call them Luang Pi, venerable brother. And it's a sign that you're young, you look young, you come across as young. And people like that because we love youth, don't we? We get attached to our youth. And the Buddha pointed out, it's one of those things we get intoxicated with. When we're young, we tend to be fitter, stronger, we can run faster, we can use our body in many ways. We like it. We look better when we're young. But as you get older, those words, those names that we call each other by, brother and sister, change, and you become uncle and auntie, or even granddad. So now they call me Luang Pu Kalyano, venerable father. Soon I'll be Luang Pu, which means venerable grandfather. And some people don't like these terms because it means, I've lost my youth, because they were attached to their youth. So when they start calling you uncle or sister, auntie or granddad, grandma, they don't like it. They say, no, I've lost my youth, I'm old now. And then we have all these perceptions about old age, how bad it is, you're close to death, you're ill, you're weak, I can't do anything. But that's only one way of looking at it, isn't it? If you think about it, if you've reached what you might call old age, whenever that begins officially, I don't know, but if you're 60 or 70 or 80, you don't have to feel bad, you can also feel good. You say, I made it. Many people die young. When I was young, quite a few of my friends died, usually from not very good reasons, like car crashes or drug overdose or even suicide, unfortunately. It happens. Accidents as well. So if you've reached an older age, rather than feeling bad about it, maybe feel good about it. Oh, I made it. Some didn't. And maybe, like myself, and I'm sure you have the same experience, as you get older, then people start dropping more and more. It's unusual when you have a young friend or family member who dies, but as you get older, you can't avoid it. People all around you start dropping. Monks start dropping. So I have known many monks who have passed away now, and that will continue. So as long as you're still alive, that's at least one thing to feel happy about. I'm still alive. And you can maybe feel compassion for the less fortunate. Those who die young have less chance to practice the Dhamma. So feel compassion for them. They're going to have to wait for another life or another chance to practice. But New Year's like that, doesn't it? It depends how you look at it. It can be, you can say, oh, another year older, another year closer to my death, things are bad, life is slipping away from me, and feel very depressed. Or you can say, well, I've come this far, and reflect on the good things you've done in your life, the good things other people have done, your good fortune, and actually feel happy about where you're at. And the Buddha pointed out, if you've encountered the Buddha and the Buddha's teachings, that's definitely something to feel happy about. Imagine if you hadn't encountered the Buddha's teachings in your life. You probably think the greatest happiness in life is an afternoon in the shopping mall, or a good meal, or something, something very worldly, very sensual. But now we know that the greatest happiness is Nibbana, and that the path leading to Nibbana is the greatest path, and it's the most useful thing we can do as human beings, is to develop it. That's how I feel anyway. If I hadn't met the Buddha's teachings, then I really wouldn't know where to go in life and what the purpose of it is, and what the point of it is. I'd be just lost, wandering around in samsara. So that's at least one good thing you can reflect on for New Year at this time, or any day in fact in your life. You have encountered the Buddhist teachings, they're still available, they're here in the world, even though the Buddha has passed away. There are still many wise, peaceful teachers available who we can listen to, meet, follow their example. That's something good. If you're listening or watching this Zoom session, there's many other good things that are apparent, aren't there? You've got eyes to see or ears to hear. That's also your good fortune, that you're healthy enough to listen to the Dhamma and practice the Dhamma in one way or another. Not everyone can do that. Even some people, they encounter the Dhamma, but they're not healthy. They have, their illness is just so debilitating that it limits them. They can't practice, or they can't listen to the Dhamma. When you're ill, many people know when you're ill you become weaker, so that it's harder to concentrate and listen to a Dhamma talk. Maybe you can listen to some chanting and feel good, and that's not a bad thing either, but to actually listen and understand the Dhamma is harder when you're feeling weak in your body, or you've got various symptoms of an illness. It's harder to meditate, harder to concentrate your mind. Many things get harder as our health goes downhill. So if you're still healthy enough to join this Zoom session, that's something to be happy about, whatever else is going on in the world. And if you're living in a place that's reasonably peaceful, and nowhere's perfect, but if you don't have any war surrounding you, or no natural disasters, you're not being oppressed by bushfires or flooding or earthquakes. I know these things happen, but if they're currently not happening, again, that's your good fortune, isn't it? You have good conditions for the Dhamma. So New Year is a time maybe just to take stock of that, to realize how fortunate you are. Because the way of the world is always to think about what's wrong, isn't it? The news, social media, gossip, talking to people. We talk a little bit about what's right and what's good, and then a lot about what's wrong and what we don't like. We complain. A New Year is not a time to complain. New Year is a time to take stock with mindfulness of the way things are. And there may still be things we need to do and improve, of course. But there'll also be some good things there that we often overlook. And it's one of the great qualities that comes with mindfulness and wisdom is that you can reflect on things as they are rather than getting lost in your perceptions. Like if you are always listening to negative news or gossiping or talking about things in a negative way, that becomes your view generally, isn't it? You start looking at the world as a place that's bad, people are bad, what's it all coming to? The world is coming to ruin, there's no future, you feel depressed. Well, for some individuals that may be true, but also there's many good things, as I've just pointed out. If you've got good health, you've got good opportunities, good conditions, you've got the dharma, there are many good things in your life. But you may be just missing them. And so your perception may just become coloured and you start seeing everything in a negative light and make yourself very unhappy. When you're mindful, you're just aiming to look at the way things are because you're mindful. Mindfulness doesn't choose, mindfulness is not biased. If you're mindful of the breath going in, going out, you're not forming an opinion, I like this breath, I don't like this breath, or anything else you turn your mind to be mindful of. You're just seeing it as it is. That's your aim, and that's what comes the more you practice mindfulness. And your intelligence, your wisdom faculty can function better when you're mindful. So that means you can appreciate the good in yourself, as well as your faults, you see them as well. But you're neither stuck on one or the other. You're not trying to convince yourself you're all good and perfect, but you're neither just getting down on yourself and criticizing yourself and just finding fault with yourself. You look at yourself in a more balanced way when you're mindful. And the same applies to your job, your family, the people around you, the world around you. There's the good and there's the bad. And mindfulness is just observing or allowing you to observe the way things are. So the Buddha said that mindfulness is always useful, always helpful as a quality. So for instance, another thing we practice at New Year time is forgiveness and letting go of some of our anguish and hatred from the past, because we unskillfully tend to just carry around a lot of mental luggage, don't we? We remember things that we don't like about other people or about ourselves. We hold on to the words of other people or the things other people have done, and we kind of can keep suffering over things that have often happened a long time ago, because we keep dragging them up and holding on to them and reliving them in our mind. So New Year is traditionally a time of forgiveness. So in Thailand, you go to your elders, whether it's a monk or a parent, a grandparent, and we do this hand bathing ceremony, which we had in the monastery today. It's a sign of gratitude, service, appreciation, and you're just doing a small act of kindness for the person you're doing to. And it's not just for monks, it's also for elders in your community. You wash the hand. It's just a small, simple little action, but it means a lot. Because if you're going to bathe someone's hand, you have to set aside the worst of your anger, if you have any anger or hatred for them. You can't hate someone and then go up and bathe their hand. It doesn't work, does it? You don't want to go near someone that you're angry with. You say, I can't even see them. I can't even hear their name, let alone go and bathe their hand. So if you've managed to appreciate, say on a day like today, New Year's Day, and there's a bathing ceremony, you manage to appreciate the good in someone, Well, even if you don't like them 100% or you still have some bad memories, you can go up and you can wash their hand. That's a sign that there is something in common between you. You pour water over someone's hand, the water washes off that hand into a bowl or something. That's two human beings in close contact in a very beautiful way, bringing up very beautiful dhammas. Not beautiful in the sensual way, but beautiful in the way of dhamma qualities coming up both in the mind and the heart of the one bathing and the one receiving the bathing. Kindness, gratitude, appreciation, compassion, mindfulness, patience. Even to bathe someone's hand, you have to be mindful. If you're not mindful, you miss. So I think today there was hundreds of people bathed my hand today, and the other monks who were there. Maybe one or two missed. Usually it's the kids because they don't quite know what's going on and they're not fully sort of practiced in the whole thing. So they come up and some kids throw their water and the flowers get bathed, but not your hand because they don't yet aim for your hand yet. They're not fully mindful and aware of what's going on. But all the adults, they pour the water over your hand, and you have to concentrate to do that. No? You have to pay attention where are the person's hands, you pour the water. So even a hand bathing ceremony can be done with mindfulness, and with mindfulness, other good qualities arise. Then you get the patience, the gratitude, the kindness, compassion. You remember the Buddha, you have faith, and maybe some joy. And many people have joy. Some people even cry when they do this ceremony. So it brings people together and kind of forces you in a dhamma way, in a good way. It forces you to set aside differences, negativity, anguish, even hatred. To do it, to complete this ceremony, you have to set aside those negative qualities. So some people might think, oh, waste of time, don't need that. But sometimes these ceremonies can be quite useful, especially with large numbers of people. Of course, in many countries now, people focus more on the fun side, throwing water around in the hot weather, of course. But, that's not the point of it. That's a modern thing, just like Christmas becomes a very commercial thing and so on. The point of it is the dhamma that you're bringing up in your heart and the showing of respect and gratitude to people who mean something to you in your life. So New Year is like that. And so it is a time really to set aside some of your anger, start afresh. And that's another good thing in Buddhism, the constant reminder and emphasis on the fact that even though we are afflicted by what we call mental defilements, kilesa, rooted in greed, selfishness and attachment, rooted in anguish and hatred, rooted in delusion and wrong views, even though these qualities affect us, there's always a chance to recognize that and let them go and change. Nothing is fixed. And so New Year is a clear reminder of that. Okay, last year you maybe made some mistakes, you did some things wrong, hopefully you did some things right as well. But even if you've done things wrong or bad things have happened or you've been stressed and unhappy over the last year, that can change. If you develop the right causes through your practice, things change for the better. Nothing is fixed, nothing is definite that you have to suffer, that you have to be unhappy, miserable, stressed, angry. In the end, it's a choice. And a new year sort of time is a time to remember that. You have a choice. You have a choice to hold on to your anger or let it go. Sometimes it's as simple as that. You have a human mind which is kind of like an open vessel, an open book. It's up to you what you put into it. Whether you put in the good stuff, meaning you focus on the positive good things, the useful things like kindness, mindfulness, patience, wisdom, faith in the Buddha, or you fill it up with all the bad stuff, the rubbish, the anger, the jealousy, the selfishness, the ignorance. You have that choice. ultimately it comes down to each one of us, whether we're going to, in this new year, have more stress and suffering or less. Even though sometimes on the outside things can be difficult, challenging, stressful, what's going on in the inside is your job. Your role is to look after your own mind. So you could almost like call your mind a bit like a room, isn't it? You say you have a room in a house. So what are you going to fill your room up with? Are you going to fill it up with cheap rubbish, junk, as some people do? Are you going to leave your room untidy, unclean, dirty, smelly, neglected? Or are you going to fill your room up with nice stuff? Beautiful stuff, keep it clean, tidy, make it a nice place to be. That's your choice, isn't it? What you put in your room is your choice. What you fill your mind with is your choice. And that's practice, and that's why we practice, is because you have a choice. Nothing is fixed, nothing is predetermined. It's not, and we often say this, don't we? We say, oh, I deserve all my suffering, last life I was a bad person, or it's the will of God, God has made me suffer and I just have to be with it and accept it. That's not what the Buddha taught, and I find that the Buddha's words and teachings are very practical and very wise. His teaching is that yes, there is suffering, but you can also get out of suffering through your practice, and that's your choice. I was talking earlier about how monks develop their mind, and often, not always monks, lay people as well, but particularly monks will develop strong states of samadhi through their practice. And some of our teachers are very powerful minds, even attain jhanas and even psychic powers and amazing abilities, as well as freeing their mind from suffering. They often have some special knowledge and special abilities. And once you've trained your mind, it's important that you guide it with the Dhamma. So you could develop some meditation, some skill in concentrating your mind, but you also have to balance that with these other aspects of right view or wisdom. You have to also have the sila, the morality, the compassion, the patience, the kindness. You have to learn how to let go. Even if you develop deep states of samadhi, the peace, the serenity of samadhi, which is a good thing, but if it's not guided by wisdom, then it can still lead to harm, lead to suffering. Sometimes, you put a lot of effort into something. In our case, we may be talking more about the Dhamma practice, meditation. You put a lot of effort into meditation. You can't help but sort of want results. So you want to experience states of peace, states of samadhi. And if you still haven't done that, you might sort of get disheartened and think, oh, I can't do it, I'm no good, I don't have the barami, or don't deserve it. Or you might blame someone else, blame the teachings are not right, or the place is not right, or the world, blame the world. Easy to blame the world. We tend to do that, but what we also have to see is whatever we do in our Dhamma practice, we have to guide it with wisdom, and not simply learn techniques of concentration and samadhi, but also learn morality, compassion, some of these more positive, softer qualities, which will also look after the mind, look after the practice. So New Year is a good thing for that. However much you practiced this last year, maybe you're disappointed with your meditation, or I put so much effort in and I didn't get very concentrated. Well, you also have to accept that, forgive yourself, but also maybe look at other things that are blocking you or causing you obstructions. Maybe you still have some problems in your relations with other people, you still have some negativity, anger towards other people, or you still have some weaknesses in your own personal discipline, some areas of your life where you indulge, or you're not not trying very hard and you sort of indulge too much. Some people sleep too much, or some people indulge in certain activities which are more harmful than helpful to them. You have to look at that as well and get an all-round picture. So when you reach New Year, you can pause, establish mindfulness, and reflect. What do I need to develop more, and what is good already? And then maybe some things are good already, but what do I need to develop more? And if I do have stress and suffering, where is it coming from? What are the causes? So I was saying, many of these great Ajahns, they become great Ajahns because they have a very all-rounded practice. Not only do they develop samadhi, even psychic powers, and even reach nibbana, but they have compassion, patience, kindness, mindfulness, all kinds of wisdom and understanding that they can use in so many ways. And that's also why they become good teachers. And I was mentioning earlier today, we were talking about Luang Pu Fun, who was one of the teachers, a contemporary of Ajahn Chah, although he's slightly older than Ajahn Chah. He's considered to be an arahant, fully enlightened monk. He was a disciple of Ajahn Mun, and very well known for his ability with the mind to develop deep states of samadhi and also psychic powers. And one of the things that endeared him to people and made him a kind of household name in Thailand was that he had this great metta, his ability to train his mind just to completely abandon anger. And people really believed that when they met him. His metta was very powerful. Luang Pu Sumedho was very lucky to have met him, and he always said, Luang Pu Fun's metta was so obvious, so apparent. The king of Thailand, the last king of Thailand, took him as his teacher because his metta seemed so powerful, and backed with wisdom. When it's metta combined with wisdom, it's a very powerful teaching tool. Even the king of Thailand liked to go and see him, meditate with him, ask him questions. But everyone who went to see Luang Pu Fun had this feeling that, his metta is so powerful. They could feel something, they sensed it. And they really got inspired to practice that human beings can abandon anger. It's possible. Because often we doubt it, don't we? We say, New Year, I should forgive everyone and let go of my anger. But one of the obstacles to that is we have doubt. We don't really believe that we can do it. Sometimes we don't believe anyone can do it. Sometimes we don't believe we can do it personally. So if you don't believe in something, you don't try very hard. Even sometimes we make excuses and say, New Year, yep, I'll forgive them today, but tomorrow back to battle, back to war. And sometimes even countries and governments are like that. They have a temporary truce and then it doesn't last very long and they're back to fighting each other. We're often like that, not fighting the kilesas, fighting in the wrong way, fighting other people, fighting the world because we're angry. But when you meet a monk like Luang Pu Fun, or hear of a monk like that, you have this great sense of confidence arise. Human beings can overcome their anger. Another reason people believe that is because he lived at a well-known forest monastery up in northeast Thailand in a national park. It's called Tham Kham. It's a cave monastery on a mountain, and when he first went there, it was so remote. It was about 15 kilometers from the nearest village. So there's a massive walk that the monks living there had to do every day to get food. The villagers would walk about 7 or 8 kilometers, and the monks would walk about 7 or 8 kilometers. They'd come down the mountain, meet the villagers, exchange food. The villagers would give the monks food, and then they'd go back up the mountain. He was willing to live there because he said it's such a good place for meditation, and even though it's very hard work, a lot of hardship, he found it very conducive to developing samadhi. But as is common in those places that are very remote in the forests of Thailand, because it was so remote and so few people, it was full of animals. So he lived in one cave, and in the next cave was a family of tigers who potentially could have killed him or eaten him. And he lived there for many months, next door to a family of tigers. And he said every night they go out to work, because tigers work at night, and they'd trot past the front of his cave. He'd be sitting meditation there, and they'd come past. They knew he was there. So there's parents, there's kids, and they go past going out hunting. And tigers will hunt through the night. Then in the morning they come home, and they trot past him again, going in the opposite direction, back to their cave. So every day he was seeing these tigers. He could hear them growling, he could smell them, and they'd walk past him. They would see him, he'd see them. But they never once attacked him, and he never once fled. And people had asked him, how can you live like this right next to tigers? And he said, well, practice metta. I don't have any anger or fear of the tigers, I just feel sorry for them. So that was his character, and wherever he went, he displayed lots of kindness and compassion. So during the Second World War, he came down from the national park. He was staying in Ubon, the same town where Luang Pu Cha lived. But Luang Pu Fun was staying in a monastery on the banks of the river. It's called the Moon River. Not moon as in moon in the sky. It's just a name that sounds like that. But it's actually the Moon River runs through Ubon town. And there's a Wat Liep is on the side of the river, and he would stay there and teach people meditation every day. And in the Second World War, he was there because Ubon was getting bombed. There was a period of time they had 100,000 Japanese troops stationed there. And so the Americans and the British decided to bomb them. And of course, the Thai people of Ubon were getting bombed as well, because they're all mixed together. So every evening, people were afraid of the bombs. They would go to see Luang Pu Fun. He was their refuge, and he would meditate, sitting out in the open on the banks of the river in this temple, and people would come and meditate with him. So he said, well, it's one way to get people to meditate, their fear of being bombed. Maybe not the best way, but it worked, because they got a lot of people meditating, because they didn't know what else to do. And they'd meditate with him, and no bombs dropped on him or the temple throughout the whole war. So it worked. They were safe, and they felt it was his powerful metta that protected them. But Luang Pu Fun's mind was so strong. There was another occasion where he had made a car stop working. I can't remember the story. I think someone was being disrespectful, and sometimes it just happens automatically. The monk doesn't really try to, but it's just the power of his jhana catches a situation where someone's being disrespectful, and anyway, this car, the engine stopped working and wouldn't start until the person had come and bowed and asked forgiveness from Luang Pu, and then it started. So people knew this kind of thing happened because of the power of Luang Pu Fun's mind. So one man said, oh, every night they're bombing Ubon. If you focused your mind on these aeroplanes, you could bring them down, couldn't you? And he said, yeah, I could. My mind's powerful enough to do that. But I don't do that. And the man said, why not? They're bombing us. He said, well, if I did that, the pilot would die. And I can't do that. I'm a monk, and I practice compassion even for the pilots who are flying these bombers. So I don't kill them, which bringing the plane down would do that. So we practice equanimity, and we practice in another way. So he would meditate and radiate loving kindness, but he wouldn't do anything to harm anyone. It's because he had right view. And it's an important point, because many people, they come to the practice of meditation, samadhi, they want to make their mind really concentrated. Some people even want to know things like read other people's minds or fly through the air and do all these things. But if you don't have right view, you'll end up in disaster. You can even use meditation to hurt yourself or hurt others, and things can go wrong. So the Buddha said you have to practice in a complete way. You have to develop these other qualities such as morality, compassion, kindness, mindfulness. Otherwise, even your samadhi, even if you develop some samadhi, it can go wrong. It can be a cause for suffering, cause for making bad karma through wrong view. What we would call miccha samadhi. So every aspect of the Noble Eightfold Path has its opposite, doesn't it? You have miccha ditthi, so wrong view, maybe where you think something is good when it's actually bad. Something is right when it's actually wrong. Something is conducive to happiness when it's actually conducive to suffering. Wrong view. Wrong thought we can have. So right thought is like thought rooted in kindness, compassion, letting go. Wrong thought would be accumulation, giving into greed and selfishness, or ill will, for example. You can have wrong livelihood. You go out and kill things or people, or hurt people, take advantage of people rather than help people and practice sila. You can have wrong action. You hurt others with your actions. Wrong speech. You hurt others with your words. Wrong effort, where you're increasing your greed, anger and delusion rather than decreasing it. Wrong mindfulness, where you're very mindful but with the wrong intention in mind. You're out to steal or hurt or kill or something. And wrong samadhi. You can sit there meditating, wishing someone to die or wishing to get the better of them in some way, competing with someone else. So every aspect of the Noble Eightfold Path has its opposite. And it's back to choice again, isn't it? You have to have the wisdom and you have to choose correctly as you practice and not follow the unwholesome way, but to cultivate the wholesome and abandon the unwholesome. So in New Year time, this time Thai New Year or Southeast Asian New Year, it's a good time to reflect on that, the direction of your life. Are you cultivating the path for the end of suffering, abandoning defilements, or are you practicing to increase your defilements, which will only lead to more suffering? It's a time to reflect on that. And of course, as a monk, we wish you well. May you be free from suffering. So we wish you that you practice the true path with the right view, correct view for the end of suffering. And we hope you can abandon your mental defilements, your wrong views, and you can find true peace. So maybe I'll leave you there, leave the talk there, and in a moment there'll be a chance to ask some questions and we'll try and give some answers.